Hello, everybody, and welcome back to All Was Right. I'm Chris Thomas, and we have Larissa back as usual, and we have some cool stuff. I know it's been a few weeks since we've been on. A lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about Jason Aldean and his kind of defamation case that he may have against Whoopi Goldberg and the cackling hens of The View. We're also going to talk about a coffee shop in Colorado that's under siege for having mainstream, normal Christian beliefs. But of course, those have become radically evil by today's standards. We're also going to talk about the victim mentality that the alphabet mafia has, such as specifically this new program that started called Flee Red States, which essentially treats normal conservatism as an oppression similar to slavery. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Of course, more victim mentality from the left, as well as migrants in the streets of New York and the hypocrisy by Mayor Eric Adams. So, Larissa, I'm going to let you have the floor. I know you've been following this Jason Aldean stuff and the drama going on in that kind of world, and I'll pass the mic to you.
Perfect. So, as everybody kind of knows, that Jason Aldean is under some major backlash and controversy for his new song that dropped in May, may I add, but now everybody has a problem with it. The song is called, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Oh my God.
I can look it up.
So,
Okay, the song is called...
Try That in a Small Town.
Okay, there you go.
Yes. So the song is called Try That in a Small Town. And basically people are really up in arms saying that the song is racist. The music video is racist. There is dog whistles in it. So a whole bunch of people have spoken up on TikTok about it, claiming that it's so racist, yada, yada. And like Chris said, we have our favorite talk show hosts that were, of course, putting their 2 cents in. We have Whoopi Goldberg and Joy, whatever her last name is. I really could care
Joy
less.
Behar, who's completely
Behar, that's what it is.
Completely joyless, by the way. There's not an ounce of joy in it.
She is just miserable every single time I see her. That name is just, does not fit her too well.
It's an oxymoron.
Yes. So, I don't know if any of y'all have seen The View's episode that was discussing the Jason Aldean song, but what Whoopi Goldberg was saying was not very nice. Basically calling him a racist, talking about a sundown town and everything, and just really mean stuff that, like, you should not be saying about somebody else, especially when you're a talk show host. So there is word, it has not been confirmed yet, that Jason Aldean will be suing The View and specifically Whoopi Goldberg because of the defamation. And then there's also talks about him possibly suing the CMT, I don't think the CMT Awards, but I think just CMT in general, for removing his music video, basically for no reason.
And this is sad because you see, I'm sure, the CMT in general, a lot of the artists themselves are fairly conservative and probably would have his back, but because it's run by, corporate headquarters, God knows where, it has to bend to the will of society. And that's when we see this woke leftist ideology that's so damaging, because people have to betray what they actually think in order to not be basically crucified by the rest of the media. And it's really sad. People sell their souls, essentially.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about The View. The hypocrisy is unbelievable because I don't know if you've watched it enough, but whenever they have conservative guests on, they act all virtuous. Sometimes the audience boos them, and then they go, "Well, we want to be nice to our guests. We don't want to boo them. This is free speech. And they pretend to defend the guests. Yet, if it's somebody not sitting there with them, they'll say all kinds of defamatory shit, like you're just saying."
Oh, yeah. And I mean, even in person, they've gotten a little snippy with people here and there, but not nearly as much as they have when people are not on the show. Like, the amount of shit that they've talked about Trump even, I mean, my dear God, they would not say half that shit to the man's face. They definitely would not, because he would just put them in their place like this.
And you're totally right about They're not even that nice when it's in person because I feel like what they should say is, audience, don't mistreat them. That's our job. Because they
Right.
essentially have no problem doing it themselves. Um, I
Exactly.
think, and in today's world, because the word racist, like you could call somebody a racist, and that is as bad as like calling them a rapist or a pedophile. It's like equally bad because
Yeah.
of what the public reaction is going to be. People will take one thing that you said maybe 10 years ago and they're going to act like you murdered 10 people yesterday. So
Yep.
it's absolutely a career ending thing where you can incur huge damages by being labeled as a racist. So I think kudos to him. I hope he goes forward with the case because people's lives get destroyed by the R word.
Well, that was their goal, right? I mean, their goal was to ultimately cancel him,
Yeah.
but it kind of backfired considering that his song is now #1 on iTunes and his shows, because he's on tour right now, his shows are like damn near selling out now. So, I mean, good job by the woke ABC Mafia. They did a good job with this one.
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing in general now is it's getting harder and harder to cancel people because there's more and more people waking up to what cancel culture really is, and it's a very devious thing. I think we see every time Trump gets indicted, his poll numbers go up, and whenever people now when celebrities are attempted to be canceled, their popularity goes up. So I think the left is going to start seeing that this doesn't work. This tactic doesn't work anymore. But the
Yep.
scary part about that is what happens when they realize this tactic doesn't work. What are they going to resort to next?
Exactly. I was just thinking that, what are they going to conjure next? I guess we're just going to have to sit back and wait and see because things are just starting to warm up. Things are getting spicy. So, can't
Well, I
wait to
know
see what's
you
going to happen in the next couple months.
absolutely, and I know you've mentioned that you think there's a civil war brewing and it's going to happen sometime in 2024. I'm right with you there. I think we see it by the day getting more and more tense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially things with this, like you said, the Trump case, his indictments, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden with the impeachment. I mean, there is just so much shit happening that realistically, no side is safe. And I've
No,
said it
no.
once and I'll say it again. If, God forbid, please, I hope it does not happen, but if Biden gets reelected, I mean, we're done. We're just done. And then if Trump or even DeSantis or any other Republican gets in, the left is going to lose its goddamn mind. And with all the laws that they're trying to pass, especially for gender affirming care,
Yep.
it's going to be a total shit show, and we're just grab the popcorn at this point. I'm ready. The aliens that are here, that the U.S. claims are here, take me to Mars. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
I
Who's
saw a,
driving?
I saw a really funny meme the other day about the aliens where somebody said, now that, and to me it's like really relatable. Somebody said, now that the government has told us aliens exist, I no longer believe in aliens. If the government says it, it must not be
I
true.
I think I saw that one too. There has been so many people posting such great things regarding this aliens. Like the TikToks that I've seen are freaking gold. They are gold.
I'm pro alien, by the way. I do believe in aliens, personally.
I mean, I don't think that they are like the ET signs looking ones that the film industry portrays, but I definitely think they're more like skinwalkers where they look more human but not quite
Mhm.
human, if that makes sense.
We
They're
have to,
there's just
we have
something off about them.
Totally. We have to find some guest that knows more about aliens and have them on. I do want to have a conversation about aliens. I'm very interested in aliens.
Me too. I'm so down for
Um,
that one.
total. Wait, by the way, are you frozen? Hello? Oh, you're good. Okay.
Frozen for a sec.
I thought you were frozen. Okay. Speaking of people losing their minds, I'm going to turn our attention to, and this isn't like a national story, although it could be. Everything like this becomes really blown up, it seems. There is a coffee shop in Colorado, and it's under major fire right now because the owner is religious. Shocker, right? Because religion is now viewed as the most evil thing on the planet, and it must be stopped because
People are now being prosecuted for being religious.
yes, yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing is, and this is where you see you have to read carefully when you read, because this is why you can't trust left-wing media. When I Googled this story, um, the parent organization that this coffee shop raises proceeds for is called Recycle God's Love. And I'm actually going to put it on the screen right now. And in my opinion, you don't have to be religious to understand that there is major attacks on religious liberty. Major
Mm-hmm.
attacks.
Yep.
And you don't have to be religious to be pro-religious liberty. I'm very pro-religious liberty because we all
That's
have
my.
the right to our beliefs. Now, I'm not sure if this is showing. Okay. So this is the parent organization. Let's look at some of the tenets that they have. Help of the poor. That's a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ, the Son of God and the Son of Man. That's what all Christians believe. Whether you're a conservative Christian or a liberal Christian, that is the tenet of Christianity. That there's one God, that's another basic, very basic tenet of Christianity. Final judgment, eternal state. Again, these are all things that all Christians are supposed to believe. This isn't anything controversial. Creation, we were all guilty of sin, and sin separates us from God. Again, that's a very basic Christian tenet. Now, if we
Yeah.
look at some of this stuff here, it says this organization believes murder is wrong and hating your neighbor is viewed by God as equally sinful as murder. Yes, hate and murder are bad things. You don't have to be religious to well, the left probably thinks murder and hate is good because they love that. But
Pretty
to most
much.
to most people, murder and hate is bad. We believe lustful thoughts are equal sin as adultery. Now, this is a conservative view, but this isn't about gay or straight. This is about you shouldn't lust after somebody else's woman, and you shouldn't think dirty thoughts about people. Now,
Right.
we believe sex outside of holy matrimony is adultery and sin. Now, again, that's not anti-gay. That's actually anti any sex that's outside marriage. People may have differing views on that, but that is a religious tenet. And then it says, we believe that the homosexual lifestyle is contrary to God's word and purpose for humanity and is a sin, as is everything else here. Now, you could disagree on whether homosexuality is a sin, but look at where this is coming. This is coming after all this good stuff, helping the poor, hate is wrong, worship Jesus, and then there's this one little line about that homosexuality is a sin. That doesn't mean we hate. That doesn't mean they hate gay people. It just means they view the activity as a sin, and people are free to agree or not agree.
Right.
However, when you look at how the left-wing media reported this story, of course, what do they only focus on? They only focus on this, and they say anti-gay coffee shop that hates gay people. It's all this. To me, that's pretty much defamation. They're making it sound like the coffee shop is just existing to harm gay people, and that is total
Right.
nonsense. But you can see if you publish enough stories like that, it shapes the narrative completely. And even if you've had great coffee at this place, and maybe the owners are wonderful people and never have said a word about gay rights or anything, now this coffee shop is known all over the internet as the anti-gay coffee shop, even if they've never done a thing to harm gay people. And that's the danger and that's the power of the media.
Yep.
They can destroy someone's business, they can destroy someone's life, and they can totally write the narrative.
Just from twisting one single sentence that they read.
Right. I mean, you'd think that like Christianity just exists to oppress gay people, even though there's so much in there that's good and that I feel like a non-religious person can view as good. I feel like we live in a society founded on Judeo-Christian values. Like do not murder. Everybody thinks like do not murder people or don't cheat on your wife. A lot of people think, well, that's just common ethics, but that's actually driven from Judeo-Christian teachings. That's a religious, whether you're religious or not, those are
Yep.
actually religious tenets.
Right.
But of course, nobody wants to acknowledge that.
No, of course not. Never. Why would they want to do that?
And speaking of the total victim mentality that people like to have, I actually, one of my friends on TikTok, and I'm actually going to play her video here on the screen. Whoops, hold on. So my friend Lex, I think you follow Lex too, right?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll show the video and you can tell me. She is a lesbian woman. I think she identifies as more libertarian, so she's kind of right-leaning, but doesn't consider herself conservative. But she is very, very critical of what the Alphabet Mafia is doing. I think she lives in a red state, and she says she's never experienced any hate from conservatives. She's pretty much, I won't say she's conservative, but if you were to say she was liberal or conservative, you'd say she's conservative. You have to pick binary. But she brought to everybody's attention this program. I'm just going to play the video, and you can tell me what you think here.
This can't be fucking real. Like, this can't be real. So they have a rainbow underground railroad, okay? So gays can flee red states from persecution. Well, this gay flee to blue state to a red state. Imagine that. So fucking weird, right? And I have more rights in a red state. Weird. You know, in blue states, they took my 2A away, my freedom of speech. And by that, I mean I wasn't allowed to have a Trump sticker on my car. Otherwise, my car's windows would be smashed in. It happened to a friend of mine. Y'all are professional victims. We have all the fucking rights here. We're a protected class. Okay, do better.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong. So I actually looked up this place, this Texas Pride Realty, Flee Red States. They have a full website. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen here.
Please do. I can't wait to look at this.
So I do my fact checking. So you sign up for an account as I'm going to read their little mission statement here. As LGBTQIA LMNOP plus citizens in red states, many of us feel at risk. Did you notice how it says many of us feel at risk? It doesn't even say what the risks are. It's
right, like risk of what exactly?
Many of us feel at risk. See, as soon as you see "feel at risk," then you know it's BS. Current laws are highly discriminatory against trans youth and their families because we don't want to cut off the breasts of teenage girls, and we don't want to
children,
right? And we don't want to castrate boys. Because of that, I guess that's discriminatory against trans youth and their families. Our marriages, our families, and even our safety are at risk. The marriage is not at risk. We actually just codified that in the Senate with the Respect for Marriage Act. Gay marriage.
And what does somebody's marriage have to do with protecting your trans children that you apparently claim?
Right. Well, they have to lump everybody together. Anybody who's not straight has to be lumped in together with this because you can see this is this really long acronym.
True. Yep.
Even though some of the LGB are now like, I don't want to be a part of this, they have to lump it together for credibility. So our marriages, our families, and even our safety are at risk. If you feel the need to leave the jurisdiction of a red state, see, and here's the other thing they do. This is a fear tactic. They're putting it in caps because when you put something in caps, in capital letters, it makes it like this big, important, monstrous thing.
Yep.
Like if you were to write the Nazi Party, you do a capital N and a capital P to show how big, important, and dangerous it is. So this is on purpose. I have no doubt about it. They do that on purpose to create fear.
Of course.
Let us help you sell your property here and connect you with an LGBTQIA plus or ally agent in a better location of your choice. We are licensed in Texas and we have affiliates in all 50 states and several counties. So in other words, just move to a blue state. If you don't like, see, this is actually a Republican argument. Republicans always say this. If you don't like the laws in your state, move to another
Go!
state. Yeah, go by all means.
But why do they need an organization in order to get them to move? I don't understand. Like, do you need private security in order to follow you in your moving van? Like, I'm confused.
That's the funny thing here because they're offering something that is a readily available service already, a real estate company, right? That's not that exclusive. That exists everywhere, but they're repackaging it as this special thing that's specifically for LGBT people. It's like, no, it's called finding a realtor and moving. You don't even have to find a realtor to move, by the way. When I moved, I
Exactly.
didn't. I just looked on apartments.com and I found an apartment. You don't have to find. You don't have to go through a realtor to do that. Yeah,
No, you do not. I mean, people sell their houses privately. So what? You mean to tell me you can't buy a home privately? Of course you can.
right. It's just so funny because they're taking something that like people don't even need, and probably most people aren't going to use. I can't imagine anybody who would. I mean, I would. I'm not sure what the pricing is here, but
I
you're
don't know. It
doing.
says there's a hide we'd love to chat. So maybe we should ask the question.
Maybe I'll do this between now and next time. I'm gonna go try to go through the process and see. Um, but so it's Texas Pride Realty Group. I'll look more into this. Um, but yeah, it's basically saying pack up and move if you don't like the laws in your state, which is a Republican thing. They're actually siding with Republicans by accident. Um,
I
but
guess we can agree on something, can't
we can
we?
agree on something. But at the same time, of course, perpetuating really, really fear-mongering victimhood narratives. Of course, right? Because
Yeah.
what else?
Yeah.
What else are they good at?
Like, oh my God, we're getting attacked here. We need to go. We need help. Like, they're literally making it this exactly the whole victim mentality. They are actually acting like there is an active genocide out on them right now, and they need to use like the Underground Railroad in order to hide
Yes.
and get from point A to point B. Like, stop. You are not.
Well, I mean, the
Nobody
funny
is
thing is,
persecuting you. Nobody is killing you. Like, nobody cares if you're gay or whatever. Just leave the fucking kids alone.
I mean, I would say the same thing. If I had a straight neighbor who was trying to teach my 10-year-old son or daughter about how to be a womanizer and how to look sexy, and if it was, even if it's a straight person, I'm going to think that's equally pervy.
That's
You
exactly.
do not introduce sexuality and sexual topics to a minor. Period.
Yes.
Period.
Like,
I
why
mean,
is that so difficult for people to understand? I'm not.
it's just unbelievable. And I urge everybody to follow Lex. She's a great account. Um, and yeah, please follow her. She keeps really up to date on these things. But um, it's just so funny. Create a whole organization based on a false victim narrative. What else? What else can we expect from these people, right?
I don't know. I guess in the upcoming months we'll find out now, won't we?
It's actually funny because I know when you mentioned the whole genocide thing again. If you recall, back in like May, I had that guy, Dr. Blitz, make that video where he was saying that
Yes.
I cleaned. Now, since then, I've had a little bit of a change of heart, and maybe there is a genocide because we get so many death threats and we get told so many times they want all conservatives and Republicans to die and turfs should get hunted down in the street and killed. I should make a video and say now there is a genocide against the right. Because maybe
Yeah.
there is. They call for it.
I mean, they're claiming that people are getting persecuted and, ridiculed. Well, the only people that are people like you and I, and they're the ones that are doing it. So yeah, I guess you're calling out your own people for putting a genocide out on people like you and me.
Totally. And I think
Good. Call out your people. Good. I'm
yeah,
so glad.
totally. And and I think what we're going to see. I think in the past, and people always like to cite, there's a lot of studies that actually do show that there was historically more political extremist violence on the right than on the left, and I think probably years ago that was true. I'm not even gonna. I don't know the facts totally, but I've seen enough to convince me that that could have been true decades ago. But nowadays, we have the BLM, we have the. I don't know if you heard when Roe v. Wade got overturned. Have you heard of the group Jane's Revenge?
No, I don't think so.
So Jane's Revenge was an abortion rights group that firebombed, vandalized, and threatened any employee that worked at any pregnancy center that didn't do abortions. And they actually would leave graffiti and they would say, Jane was here. Jane, we don't know who Jane is. She's somebody.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. I know what you're talking about. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. And they said they were gonna, they would not even stop short. I don't think they killed anybody, but their messages online were saying that they would commit murder if needed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. They were being extremely threatening.
Yes. But I feel like it's interesting. We didn't see Merrick Garland, our lovely Attorney General, want to investigate or prosecute any of those instances. All of that stuff was okay. It was also okay when left-wing activists picketed outside of the Supreme Court justices' homes. Interestingly, and I'm not sure if you knew, that's actually a federal crime. You have the right to protest, but there actually is a federal statute that you cannot protest, even peacefully, on the property of a federal official. And there are people who blatantly violated the law, and none of them were prosecuted. So, it's no wonder all the stats still show that right-wing violence is still the main threat, because they're not counting any of these things by the left.
Right.
When you don't count a whole category of things as what it is, of course it's going to look like there's less in the data. So you can't
They're
even
just sweeping it under the rug like it's not happening.
Right, exactly. And I didn't want to be one of those people that's like always believe the opposite of what the government says, because I do like to have some degree of trust that there's some good people out there, but there's so many things that we're just seeing are the total opposite of what we're told.
Yep.
And maybe I'm too much of an optimist, because my first reaction's always like, nah, it can't be, and then lo and behold, it's true.
Well, it's like I definitely when I was younger, I used to think that like, oh, the government definitely has your best interest. Why would the government want anything bad to happen to us? Da, 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 da. And then as soon as I started getting a little bit older, I realized the government doesn't give a fuck about us. They only see us as cash cows. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, I really would not be surprised by anything anymore.
I mean, here's what I think, and this is how I kind of classify the government. If we're looking at the government as a 100%, as one whole entity, I would say 45% of the government is evil, 45% of the government is good, well-intentioned but incompetent, and then 10% of the government are people actually trying to change things for the better. I would say there are a few people, and I know we talked about Trump and how Trump's one of the only people. I think there are a few senators that actually who are the ones who haven't been there forever. Like I think Senator Hawley, who else? I like J.D. Vance, who just got in the 2022 midterms. There are a few younger ones that have only been there for a term or two that came from humble working class backgrounds and weren't raised with a lot of privilege. And I think they're genuinely like trying their best to pass really good legislation that's going to help people in communities that were ignored forever by both parties. And I think there's a couple people who are really trying to do their jobs really well, and I don't want to like take that away from them. I think.
Oh no, of course not. I mean, like I say with everything, you have good and bad in every community, right? That also includes politicians.
Totally. So I think we have a few really good apples, and then there's a bunch of, and I think there's a bunch of there's a bunch of well-meaning but incompetent people, and then a bunch of really bad people. And
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the minority that are actually doing really, really good work. I think before I thought it was more like everybody's good and there are some bad apples, and then I realized, no, it's really the other way around. It's
Yeah.
mostly bad and there's some good apples.
Yeah, because everybody gets greedy and everybody, starts becoming for themselves. And as soon as you start making a decent amount of money, it changes you. And all you would think about is how to get more money. And how do you do that? By screwing over people like you and I, the average, hardworking American citizen.
I was actually talking to Terry, Awesome Sweet Tea on TikTok, last night, and she said, and this is actually something I would totally get behind. I know the Senate doesn't want to do term limits. They'll never vote on that because every senator who's there, of course, wants to stay there forever, right? But what happens, and I was talking to her about this, what she suggested, and if you're listening, Washington, D.C., which you're probably not, this is actually, I like this idea. If you're not going to do term limits, every few terms you have, because the Senate's 6 years, let's say you complete 2 terms, that's 12 years in Washington, where you're kind of detached, right, from your community, from everybody else. You have to spend the length of 1 term back in your own state, working in your own state, before you can run again. Because what that does, and this is not something they're doing, it's just something Terry was suggesting, which I actually liked, it's so after you pass whatever laws and vote on whatever bills you have for those terms, you're forced to go back into the community you're representing and see the effects of what you've done. And then if you want to come back and run again, you can do that, but it's after you've seen in real time the effects of the work you've done. Because what
I
ends up
like that.
I like that too, because it doesn't
I
mean
like
like,
that.
yeah, it lets people have a long career if they want to, but it also ensures that they have that on their conscience. They don't get so jaded. Because I think if you see these people like Mitch McConnell who've been there since like the 70s and they've been there 40, 50 years, I don't necessarily think people like Mitch McConnell went into the Senate with bad intentions and wanting to become part of the establishment. I think everybody goes in thinking they're going to do great stuff, and then they do for a while, and then they get so ingrained in Washington and how Washington works. And even if they went in as really, really pure-minded, good people, it changes them. That's what I
Right.
think
From
it
all the
is.
corruption, I'm sure.
And I think that's what, and I don't even think it's necessarily their fault. I don't necessarily think they're bad people, but they become part of this fixture that becomes so detached from everybody else. So how do you stop that? You have to interrupt it by making them go back home and meeting face to face with the people that they've represented, because it interrupts that corruption if you have to take a break and go back into your community. That's what I think, at least.
I like that. That's actually a really good idea. She should bring
Anyway,
that up to Senate next time she goes to a
yeah,
meeting.
she should write to her. Yeah, I'll tell her to write in. Because I mean, they say senators are supposed to. You can write to your senator as if that never does anything. But
Sometimes it does. I mean, I've heard stories. My father's wrote
yeah,
to like the governor's office and everything, and he
uh-huh.
has heard back. So you never know.
I just think they're going to be wary of doing anything that limits how long they can be in Washington. I
Oh,
think
of
with other
course, because
stuff,
they like that control. You know what I mean? So anything that's going to change that control, they're going to be like, oh no, no, we can't have that.
yeah, I feel like they'll like anything that helps people, but also they can remain in power too. But I think it's a good idea. Maybe I'll run for to be a senator, and I'll
Chris for
model it.
Senate 2029 or whatever.
So yeah, we're actually already at our last topic of the night, and this is of course about the ongoing border crisis under our amazing President Joe Biden. Um,
Woo!
and I'm sure you've heard about how the streets of New York right now are being flooded with migrants, and there's people
Oh
lining
yeah.
the street. So the interesting thing is, and I know Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott of Florida and Texas have been busing and flying a lot of migrants to these states because they're not asking for these people to come across the border. I feel horrible for Greg Abbott in Texas. His state's being overrun, and he's getting, of course, no help from the federal government because Biden literally does not give a shit, and I'm very comfortable saying that. Like, I used to be like, oh no, he's trying his. No, he doesn't care. He does not
No.
care. And Governor Abbott's having to dip into his own surplus, things that could be helping his state with other programs, and he has to use it on doing Biden's job and securing the border. So, people say it was mean that they flew the migrants. I think they were trying to get some attention that, hey, this is not okay what's going on in these states. This is not okay. So anyway, the funny thing about this is they've filled up the Roosevelt Hotel in New York with migrants. They're sleeping on the streets. And Mayor Eric Adams, a very blue Democrat mayor of New York City, has flown migrants to red states, and he flew a couple to China. I have to look into why he did that, but he was flying migrants in his streets to red states and, in some cases, other countries. Now, the funny thing about this is he was one of the people who flat out was saying, look how horrible, it's a political stunt flying the migrants, and then he's doing the same thing, which I think is hysterical. Because,
Why doesn't he put them over at his house? I'm sure he has the room.
well, the funny thing about this is, so New York is a sanctuary state, I believe. Actually, let me fact check that. I don't want to say that if it's not true. 1 second. Okay, so is New York a sanctuary state? Okay, yes, in an executive order signed on September 15th, 2017 by Governor Cuomo, Um, the state of New York became an illegal alien sanctuary state. So there you go. His own party made it a sanctuary state, which of course means more migrants are going to be there because they know they're not going to be sent to ICE to be deported. So
Right.
what's the result? Obviously, you're going to have a lot of migrants. Duh,
Yep.
because that's the policy you've laid out, that they can all be there and not get prosecuted. So of course. And then, lo and behold, they don't like it, and they start flying them other places. Maybe that's how Texas feels. Maybe that's how
Hmm.
Arizona feels. Have you ever thought? Has he ever thought of that? Of course not, because they have no empathy.
No, no. And my question is, was China aware that they're now accepting migrants? Like,
Yeah, I have to see why that was. It was weird. I was trying to find out why he sent somebody to China. Maybe it was somebody from China. But that would essentially be sending someone back to their country, which they say, oh, these horrible Republicans, they're sending people back to. It's like, what else do you do? The alternative is they're sleeping in the streets, taking up resources, contributing to the homeless crisis that's really, really big in these blue states. What else do you do? You
and
can't,
now the food stamps that the taxpayers have to shell out.
exactly. And I think we saw Eric Adams several weeks ago. I'm not sure we talked about it on here. I think we talked about it, though, offline, that Eric Adams, the mayor, was asking people to voluntarily take in illegal
Hmm.
immigrants into their homes. It's like, this is what happens when you make your state a sanctuary state.
Yep. Yep.
So, my view is you made your bed, now you lie in it.
I could not agree more.
Which now is like, I used to think that was a common sense principle, but now it's become a right wing extremist principle. You make your bed, you lie in it. I thought that's what every parent is supposed to teach their kid, but I guess not.
That's what I was taught, and I learned my lesson on several different occasions after being told that. So,
And that's human nature, isn't it?
yeah,
When you have to take accountability for the mess you've caused, you're less likely to repeat the same mess. That's you don't even have to. That's not even Psych 101. It's like less than that. It's so basic,
right.
and it shocks me that people find that to be controversial now.
The whole like going around in a circle where you are doing the same things, but you're getting the same result. Well, change something,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe you'll get a different outcome. I don't know.
That's actually Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. It's more than just irresponsible. It's literally insane by that definition.
Are we
Uh,
getting somewhere?
we are getting somewhere. The left, the modern left, is insane, and I think we see it. We see it daily.
Well, be careful. They might change the definition of insane on us too. So the definition of insane might be that you're totally normal in the next 2 weeks. Who knows?
Yes, no, I think it's totally true. Everything is being. You've noticed that they never have a good argument for why they disagree, so they just change definitions and they try to gaslight you into thinking that somehow you're out of touch and you're wrong. Unbelievable.
I
Anyway,
know. No.
so anyway, guys,
Crazy.
that is actually um, our show, and we are going to be having some other guests in the coming weeks. So get excited. We're going to have some other great names on TikTok be joining us. I'm not sure what we're doing next week, but in the coming weeks, keep watching, and we'll have some other stuff for you. And in the meantime, my name is Chris. This is Larissa, and you're watching Always Right, because we are always right.
Always.
Okay, take care, guys.
Bye, guys.